guys, Kat here. Welcome back to my channel, Catadactyl. Today I'm going to be doing a review of a book that I just read for Nonfiction November, and it is #GIRLBOSS by Sophia Amoruso. So this book is a memoir slash self-help slash advice book that Sophia Amoruso wrote, and we follow her from the very start of her life up into the point where she is the CEO and creative director of a multi-million-dollar company. Sophia starts out and she's kind of a misfit. She doesn't really fit into any of the pegs that society has for her. So she's not so great at school, she doesn't like studying, she doesn't get on well with the different roles that people keep trying to stick her in. She gets fired from a bunch of jobs. Things just aren't sticking. She has the great capacity to work hard if she is motivated, but she finds that she is only using 15% of her brain at the jobs that she is working at, and she just isn't being pushed, and she's very, very bored. So one day she decides to start selling vintage clothes on eBay. So she goes to different thrift stores around her area and she finds great pieces which she thinks will sell well, and she posts them on eBay. And once she has her eBay site, she painstakingly builds her business from the ground up. So in the beginning, it is just her in her bathrobe, in her room, but she is making sure that her products are perfectly represented on the site. The pictures are really well formatted, and each picture tells a story. There is a narrative for her site, and she decides to name the site Nasty Gal, a take on not fitting in and also kind of branding herself for the first time. So lo and behold, her vision and her kind of sense of style and the finds that she is labeling as vintage become a huge success, and she really finds a story that translates well with a lot of different shoppers. So as she is packaging up each item and sending it to each person, she is so careful to have everything perfect, the exact labels aligned, and to be really careful with her feedback to customers, and to really be ever present in every single part of the way she represents herself in her business and also the products that she is putting out there. After that, her company just completely explodes, basically, and she has to hire more people to help her. She has to hire finance departments, she has to hire head of affairs, she has to hire human resources, she has to make a company motto, and as time goes on, her company gets bigger and bigger that they have to move to a different apartment headquarters, and then they have to rent a warehouse for all of the goods they have and all of the extra merchandise, and then she has to hire teams on teams on teams, and she is the CEO of a company that is worth many millions of dollars. And I just thought that this book was a really fantastic read. I think I would give it around 4 to 4.5 stars. Some bits were repetitive. She's definitely not a really technical writer by any means, but I think the messages in this book are what make it about 4.5 stars for me. So I just wanted to dedicate the end part of this video to outlining the 6 takeaway messages that I had from this book that I think are really amazing, and why I think that everyone should read this book, especially if you are a younger person or a person looking to reinvent yourself. It doesn't matter if you are a girl or a guy, despite it being girl boss, it could be a guy boss. It is all about knowing yourself and knowing where you fit and knowing how to utilize the resources at your disposal and also not at your disposal to the best of your abilities. So I really recommend this book. I really loved reading it, and I think it is a great way to start off Nonfiction November. And without further ado, I'm going to get into the 6 takeaway messages that I had from this book. When she was a child on the playground, she used to imagine that she had a red string trailing behind her, and when it trailed behind her, she would pretend that there was a kite on the end, even though there was no kite. And when the other kids would see her running with the string, they would ask her, oh, like, what are you doing? And she'd say, oh, I'm flying a kite. And basically, all of the other children, into believing that they were all running these strings with kites. The message here is that when you truly believe something, it has the power to convince other people. And that is definitely something that I struggle with during NaNoWriMo. I think one of the greatest challenges about writing a novel is when people ask you, what are you doing with your time? And you have to say, I'm writing a novel. It takes a lot of confidence to be able to say, yes, I believe in myself and I believe in the fact that I can produce this thing, and to then convince other people. So when you are really confident, I think that translates to other people and they see your unwavering vision and they also believe in that vision. So I think it is a great message, and I think it is one that I really have to take to heart, especially as NaNoWriMo continues on. Okay, so message number 2 is boredom. When she was going through all the different jobs and she was being fired and she really felt like she was only using 15% of her brain, she made the great point that just because you are not doing well in school, just because you aren't fitting into the role that society has laid out for you, just because you are not doing well in your job, or you're so bored with where you are, it doesn't mean that you yourself are bad in any way. It just means that the situation you are in is not playing to your best abilities. So just because you are in a job where you are absolutely bored out of your mind, it doesn't mean that you're doing the job wrong necessarily. It means that you should find a different location where your talents would really shine. And I think that is a really important message, that you are not wrong, you're just in the wrong location. You have just got off at the wrong stop. So for me, I really feel that with being an ALT and teaching English as a second language, I do really enjoy many facets of my job. I really think that teaching kids is an amazing experience, and I do love children, and I have absolutely no problems with my coworkers, but I will say that I think I use significantly less of my brain than I would like to. And it's not necessarily that anything is wrong, like she said, it's just that I am at a place where I'm feeling bored. So that is why I've decided kind of next year and currently to try and pursue other avenues and try and see if that will bring me more joy, more contentment, and totally less boredom. Number 3 is ask for it. She brings up a little snippet of a story where her and her friends are backpacking and they are trying to thumb and hitch a ride. And they see a Greyhound bus coming and they decide, you know, why not? So they put their thumbs out, and much to their surprise and the surprise of everyone else on the bus driver pulls over and lets them on for free. So it's just a perfect example of, if you don't ask, you won't get it. And if you do ask, there's always a chance that you might get it. You won't get what you don't ask for. And I think that is really important. And I've heard about it in a few different ways, that if you feel that you are doing a great job at work and you've been there for a few years, you should be totally comfortable asking for a promotion or talking about a raise. These types of things where you ask for something and there is the great possibility that you just might get what you ask for. And I think that it is an absolutely great message for everyone, and particularly women. I think it is just an amazing message. So message number 4 is treating your head like a house. If there are negative people in your life, or negative experiences, or negative things that are kind of festering and moving around in your social sphere, you would never let that in your house. And also, if a really negative person was in your house and dissing you and putting you down, or just kind of creating like a bad miasma where the vibe is really negative, you would probably stop inviting that person over. You would kick them out of your house. And she said we should also treat the space of our mind and what we think about the same way. So she was talking about how someone who had wronged her, she kept fixating on them and talking about them and thinking about them, and it was just bringing a lot of negativity, and it was just totally bringing a lot of attention to someone who didn't deserve that place in her life. And I think that's really important, and something that everyone should strive for. Certainly I need to strive for, and you know, sometimes it's really hard to cut people out or see people less or not be involved in certain things that are so much a part of kind of the social gathering mindset. And you know, drama and gossip and that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be necessarily negative, but just more fixating on things that you shouldn't necessarily fixate on. How much money other people make, what kind of clothes they're buying, how many vacations they went on. FOMO in general, I think, is a good thing to kick out of your mental house. So yeah, that's a great message that I think everyone could also take away. So point number 5, I think, is one of the most important ones, and it is not to get too attached. And by this she means when she would try something, she was hoping for success, but if it didn't work out, she didn't say, oh, well, I tried my best, so that just didn't work. No, she would tweak it, change it, try to see how she could apply it in a better way or get a better reaction from it, or see in what way it wasn't working and work to repair that. So to not get too attached to the brainchilds that you have, because sometimes it's really hard. You spend all this energy on this great idea, and then for some reason, no matter how big or small, it just doesn't work. And she said, you know, the great thing is being flexible and being able to be like, how can I change that? How can I, make it more successful, even if a part of making it successful is letting it go or cutting a piece away or just letting the whole thing go away. Just putting it on a raft and just letting it go. I think is really important to not fixate on what you have done and what should have happened. Instead, you should fixate on what you can do and what can happen. I think is a really important message. I think that is probably my favorite message. And point number 6 is just that life keeps on moving, and so should you. No one is gonna come and give you $1 million, probably, unless you are like super lucky. The people who go out and chase after the things are the people who get those things. I think one of the greatest fears I personally have in my life is of being stagnant and just sitting and saying, oh, well, this is comfortable, like, oh, this is fine. Who wants to live their life and just be fine? Like when I die on my tombstone, I don't want them to write, she did fine, it was fine, her life was fine. Like, I do not want that. So I think the idea of keep moving, keep progressing, keep teaching yourself is a really, really important message. Along those lines, I've been reading more and more books about perception and how we think and how we act and willpower and minimalism and all these different sorts of things. I think it's so important to keep moving forward and keep learning even if you are already out of school. Along those lines, I really recommend this book as a way to educate yourself about starting a business or even just getting some gumption to get up and go. This book is a great motivator, and I really enjoyed reading it, and I highly, highly recommend it. And the last thing I want to say is that I know that currently Sophia Amoruso has left Nasty Gal, but I still think that the messages in this are completely relevant, and I think there's a lot to learn from. If you like this video, then please give me a thumbs up. I really, really appreciate it. Or hit the subscribe button if you would like to see more. Which of the tips do you guys think is most relevant to you? Which ones do you think that you will be implementing? Or which ones do you have some problems with? And do you plan on reading this book? And have you read this book? I would love to hear what you guys have to say. So I will chat to you guys later in the comments. Toodles! Bye!